Hello, everybody. Welcome to SolarCity. We're not there yet, but we'll talk about it. If anybody is not able to hear me, just raise their hands. And we'll see if that... Okay, so I'm through. You can hear me, can you? Yes, Monique, can you hear me? Good, good, good.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to mute everybody now, and we'll get going. Now, as usual, I want to remind everybody that these talks that I give have a purpose, surprisingly. And the purpose essentially is one where I am looking at issues and topics which are crucial to our lives. I know a lot of people do not sort of have really access to some of the information readily available, simply because our media doesn't cover it so much. But that is the purpose. I cover those issues which I think are not well reported and needs to have our attention. Today, of course, the subject is going to be SolarCity. I've talked about this in my previous talks. But today we are going to be extending it a little bit more to be able to see where we are today. Because technology is moving quite fast, and of course we want to be able to keep up with it. So here's the agenda for today. Well, I can get that. Here we go. So in general, what I would like to do is to sort of do a bit of a recap so that it provides the context for the talk today. And after my general sort of comments, we will look at the energy requirements globally. And of course, the way that we are going to be able to achieve that, and how the companies or governments are going to be able to deliver that. We'll also look at some of the little bit more detail about how the solar homes will be operating and what are the issues there. And of course, beyond the homes, of course, we will look at the city supplies, the utilities themselves, because that's where we get most of the power from. And then, of course, we will look at and see the batteries that are involved and some financial implications. Some of these may not necessarily be in the order that I've just presented that to you just now. Okay, recap. Now, we talked about four things, in my opinion, which are very, very crucial to humanity as a whole. And the first one, I think last week I did, was Starlink, which had to do with communication, connecting up the whole globe, especially those parts which are inaccessible, like all those poorer countries. And even in the developed world, the access to internet is not sort of very comprehensive. So, because, you know, it all depends on laying cables, and cable laying is very expensive. And of course, you can imagine this is going to be a problem. So we had that Starlink, the global satellite internet, and we talked about that. The other issue, of course, has to do with space, and we talked about that as well, because we need to have a plan B, because you never know who's going to be mad enough to press the button, but sooner or later, if that does happen, we need to be able to make sure that the species are alive. And of course, space exploration and development there is very crucial. The other thing is, of course, to do with energy. Now, this is going to be the subject of our thing today, the energy, because without, you can imagine everything that we do needs to have energy. If you look at even the world, you know, works because of the sun, the energy. So there's a limitless energy there, but as humans, we have to sort of devise, rather crude sort of forms of converting that energy into something that we can use. And the time has now come where we can capture the sunlight and turn that into electricity. So, and we'll see how that takes place for our home, at homes and in the cities. So, having said that, let's get into the subject itself. Now, SolarCity is the name of a little subsidiary of Tesla. Now, you've heard of Tesla, and Tesla is really sort of synonymous with electric cars. But Tesla is more than just an automotive company. It embodies the battery, the soul of the car, which is the battery. And without batteries, you really can't sort of get away from the fossil fuels, which we are so highly dependent on. So what we need is really an electric vehicle with the battery in it, and the batteries are the heart of that vehicle. But it's not just for the automotive industry that batteries are going to be used. We can see that our homes are a great sort of consumer of electricity or energy. And most of our energy is really electric because, that's an easy way of generating it and conveying it to our homes. The question of generation then comes up. We are still dependent to a large extent on fossil fuels, which means petroleum products or coal or what have you. It's only a small percentage of nuclear sort of energy is used to convert to electricity, or even hydropower, or solar or wind, which we call renewables. So these types of energies that we generate for our grid are really variable. Depends on the weather to a large extent. And what we generate, we simply sort of convey to the areas where it's needed. Now we are starting to realize that we need to store the energy, because without storage, this energy gets lost or it doesn't get used. So what we are saying is that batteries are crucial to our future, and even the grids are now going to be looking at it very seriously, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Okay, let's look at this SolarCity. How did it come about in the first place? Now, SolarCity is a subsidiary of Tesla, as I said. So it specializes in solar energy. So it converts energy simply from solar, not from coal or oil or anything else. And SolarCity markets, manufactures, and installs residential and commercial solar panels and solar roofs in the US. And of course, it's going to go beyond that very soon to the whole world. But then, of course, it's got the technology and it's developing the technology. And of course, it's going to be able to share it with all the other countries and companies. Now, going back to 2016, Tesla acquired this company, SolarCity, and now also offers energy storage devices through Tesla, including turnkey residential battery backup services that incorporate Tesla's Powerwall. We'll talk about that also, because that Powerwall is the battery that we keep in the home that retains the power or the energy that we capture from the roof. So more on that later. The company, in partnership with Panasonic, operates Tesla's Giga New York factory and Buffalo. So these are the places where they are producing the batteries from. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Okay, just another thing there, that's Elon Musk, because he's the guy who bought the SolarCity, and he's the major shareholder of Tesla. And he's saying that total transport requires twice the electricity in general that is produced, it consumes, and homes require 3 times as much. So what we are saying is that at the moment, we need to be able to provide batteries to cover this requirement. So electricity, which is being produced by fossil fuels, need to be converted to renewable energy. And this is a sort of a global figure, relative figure, if you like, of how transport consumes so much and then homes consume so much. In fact, you could say that transport and homes, if you look at it globally, half of the total global energy is probably used in manufacturing, transport, and so on, and the other half used by consumers. That's a very, very sort of broad figure. Okay, now what he's looking for is to have that solution which is sustainable. Sustainability means we've got to be able to sort of continue production without polluting our atmosphere, because that's where the fossil fuels fall down on. They can't produce energy without having to foul up our atmosphere. So what we want is a sustainable energy. That's the term we use for having clean energy. Now, Tesla, as I said earlier on, we always associate it with cars, but it's not. In fact, it says energy is as important for Tesla as the automotive part of it is. Now, in order to be able to sort of have power given to homes, what we have is this device called Powerwall. I might have a better picture of that in the subsequent one. Yeah, here's a Powerwall and a mega pack as well. So these are just pictures which are enabling us to just visualize. So here is the size of Elon Musk, and here is the Powerwall. It's a relatively, so it comes up to your waist, if you like. And if you put that in the home and connect it to your roof, then the electricity is then sort of stored in that, and we can then connect it, that battery, to our to our gadgets at home, and they'll be powered up through this Powerwall. And we have more use of this Powerwall because we need to be able to charge it. If it's an electric car, you can charge it through that as well. And of course, if there is excess, now that's the interesting thing, I'll come to that later on as well, we can then send it back to the grid, which means basically you become a provider of energy to the grid. And the grid, because it has this demand which fluctuates during the day, it welcomes anything that comes by to it by way of energy when there's a high demand for it. And these Powerwalls and all that can provide that excess energy that are at home, which they can sell to the grid, and grid gives them a discount. So you can see, we'll go into the financials later. Now here is that Powerwall, and then of course, apart from the Powerwall, there's also this mega pack. And I'll talk about that because these are much bigger and they enable us to sort of power the cities. So here he is saying, basically, if you have solar cells on our roofs and batteries, and we place them anywhere in the world, you can have power. Therefore, you don't need to connect to the grid. Interesting, because if you go to some of the poor countries, a lot of them don't have power. I was looking at one of these areas in Sindh in Pakistan the other day, because those cities are so remote, they don't even have water. So they have to dig wells. And one of the projects that we were looking at was through our charity, in fact, was to dig a well and provide water to that. And the power to lift the water comes from solar cells. So you can see the solar cells with a little bit of battery sort of storage. They can pump the water into a storage tank. They don't even have batteries for that matter, just through solar. So when the sun is high, they'll be able to have the water pump into the tank, and the tank then retains it when you want it. So really, the idea of solar cells and batteries are hugely our future. So much so that even Google has invested in the SolarCity. Google is a sharp cookie, and they know where demand is going to be and what the clean energy of the future means to humanity. Therefore, they're investing it also in this project. Now, here is a home a very clean looking sort of thing there with solar roof here and the power wall here, you can see. And these are sufficient to be able to power the whole home. And of course, you see a pole there at the back. That pole is the grid. So the supply normally would have come through and given the power to the home. But since the home is now going to be powered here by these solar cells, and the power is then sort of retained in the power wall, the excess can be fed back through this grid pole there. Okay, where are we on delivering some of these solar solutions for homes? March 2020, they are still starting, the 1,000 homes per week is their target at the moment. And you can see that the target has got to be immensely increased. Now, where the bottleneck comes in, it's not there yet, but it is going to be facing us very quickly, is when the demand for more than 10,000 homes per week increases. And that could go up to 10,000 or even 500,000. And for that, you need the batteries. Now, this is where the bottleneck is. I'll talk about that later. Okay, so here we are talking about the power wall. Oh, this one seems to be as tall as him, a little bit taller. Depends on how fat or thin this power wall is. And it costs about 5,500 here. And it takes care of power, sockets, fridges, and 4-bedroom house for a full day. So there's enough power there. And this one is essentially saying the same thing, but has a more capacity here if you have a larger home. Now this is for a city. Now you can see these are huge things. In Southern California, they've installed something like 80 megawatts, megawatt hour of battery power. And even in Hawaiian Island here, 52 megawatt hours. So here, now why Hawaii, although it has plenty of sun, Hawaii has some water, hydropower as well, which it can sort of capture and store it here and not lose it or switch the power, the hydropower on and off, which takes time. Now the switching on from the battery power to what was this, the grid is just done in milliseconds. This shows us a picture of the laying of the solar roof. The solar roof can come in different forms. At the moment, we have solar cells, which we are quite familiar to see. But then their development has also taken place, which make them look like tiles. I'll show you a picture of that just now. Here we are. So here's the tile. So if you put this on the roof, it looks like a normal tile, but then it has the power to generate power like a solar cell. Now they also have to make sure that these solar roofs are going to be robust enough that they don't sort of crack up or are fragile. So these are the tests that you drop a weight on some of these terracotta thing, it breaks. On a clay tile here, it breaks. On this slate tile and it breaks. But if you put this on this Tesla glass tile, it doesn't break. So you can see it's a pretty strong type of tile. Now, how does the cost compare? Now, this is the cost of a terracotta. This is in dollars per square foot. And this asphalt single type of tiles. But here, solar tiles are comparable to the other one. So they're not excessively costly, but they have the ability to create power, which can then earn revenue for you or save your bills. Okay, how does a solar home work? Here's a picture of that. Just a little schematic there. Roof, solar, sun captures this, and there's a little device called the inverter. And we've seen the inverter is that this is DC current, direct current. And the inverters make that into AC. AC is where most of our devices at home are using. And then it has this excess that goes back to the main panel. Yeah, this is where it's stored on the power wall. And then, of course, from the power wall, we'll see soon that it can go through connecting to the grid pole. And therefore, so long as the sun is shining, you're creating excess energy, basically. So, but at night, there's no power. So that night, that power has been stored in the power wall. And because it can be charged fully or even so, what happens is that when it's producing excess energy, then it can be put into the grid. There we are. That's again connecting, sending the power to the grid here. That's the same picture there. Okay, that's just looking at all of it. Sun, and then you save lots, you earn lots of money by generating this power. That's the money bags there for you. And it's a green energy. And it is essentially a very desirable type of energy production and utilization. Now, this is just showing you in terms of what we can expect by way of costs. Now, this is a figure that's from a real user who has installed his home. From July to December, he's done a calculation. So the home usage is about this figure here, 4.5 kilowatt hours is what he's used. From the grid, he has used 3,000, but he has put back 3,000 back into the grid. Because, you know, because of the night and day, there's got to be a little bit of management of that power when it gets generated on the roof and when you use it from the grid. So he's put back quite a lot in there, which means after looking at all these figures, he's a bit detailed. The utility bill for him for 6 months went down to $28. Now, what was it before? Before he was paying something like this here, $150 a month and $126, $106, depending on the season. And of course, you know, on the hot season, you're utilizing more, on the winter less. So you can see the size of the bill is quite substantive here. And if you're going to then sort of pay only $28 for 6 months, you know, that's a very big saving. So it makes you, you know, invest in that roof. So we have to take into account the cost of that investment. And here it is, small is $15,000, medium 21, and this is large 32. So that gives you an idea. And then, of course, you know, because of the savings, you can recover this cost. Now, one of the things that we are seeing is that climate is having a big impact. And the last one that we saw, which really caused a lot of issues, is, of course, we are looking at this, you know, renewables are being used for storage purposes. Now, okay, I'll come back to the cities, which had a little bit of problem later, but since we are on the sort of scalability of this power, a range of storage capacities are available. You know, from a power wall to a car uses about 100 kilowatt hours. And then you've got this full home, large home. And then if you want cities, you can keep on adding these mega packs. So you can really scale up for storage. So if you have, let's say, a large renewable source, you can put lots of batteries there and capture a lot of that energy and keep it and give it to the consumer as the consumer needs it. So here's scalability, you know, they're already operational. That's the mega pack. You know, these are the battery mega packs. They're already operational in Australia and in Hawaii and in California. Huge types of battery packs, if you like, that are connected to the grid, and the grid then supplies the power to homes using these batteries, and which it has collected from other homes, in fact. Okay, the market for this storage battery is going to go enormously big. You know, from 2020 of 3 billion, by 2027 is going to be 15 billion. So quite a, in fact, it will be more. I think these figures are a bit understated. Okay, now Tesla is one of the leading energy providers. You know, apart from the cars, it's doing the, it's doing the battery production as well. This is how it has deployed its energy storage. It keeps on luring up the demand, and the demand has got to be met not just by Tesla, because Tesla is producing the cars and the batteries, but it needs more batteries. Therefore, it buys these extra batteries from other battery producers. And one of them, the big ones, is in China called CATL, and there are others in USA as well. These are the mega packs here. So here, basically what I told you before, that the Tesla as a company is really both energy and an auto company. And the revenues will come in equal measure from both. In fact, Musk says that Tesla might earn more from its energy sort of sector than from autos. Thus again, this is large storage systems. And I put this up simply to show you that it has a lot of smart software built into it. Why do we need software? Well, in order to be able to manage the energy, either to sort of send it to the grid or send it to the home, or just use, keep it in the, or send it, or charge up your car. So these types of softwares make decisions for you without you having to worry about it. Yeah, this is just basically a renewable energy. And this is a picture of Australia, I think, where they had a huge amount of problem. They had a drought, and I think they had a fire as well. They had to put lots and lots of battery, and Tesla did it for them. And through the sun, they capture these, through the sun plus these wind, they capture the energy and store it in here. Now, these are the grids. They're already storing some of their power over here, excess power that they generate. Sorry. Now, all these batteries that we have, because because everything is going to go electric very quickly, we see that every phone of ours has this lithium-ion batteries, and every other gadget you can think of that needs a bit of the battery usage. So sooner or later, we need to recycle this, and companies are coming up to recycle this. This is what this battery looks like. And one of the things about this lithium battery is that it can be recharged many times. Now, quite often we might have seen ourselves this Duracell when we try to charge it. We charge it a few times, and after that it goes dead. But in this lithium thing, we are now at a point where Tesla says they can go up to 4,000 charges, which means that in their terms, that's equivalent to 1 million miles. So you can keep on charging the Tesla batteries up to 4,000 times and be able to have something like 1 million miles being given. Now, climate has made a big difference to our world. Here, Texas had a big freeze and was short of power. And there were really sort of quite a lot of mortalities as well because of that, and people suffered quite a bit. So we are going to be prone to this type of climate fluctuation. And it is in such cases that the grid must have power that it can store in the battery and be able to deliver when the need arises. Now in Australia also, I told you earlier on, a place called Jamestown, saved from drought and fires because the Tesla people got there and set up a factory, sort of this battery sort of power. Make that bit bigger for you. Here we are. So we have this sort of enormous amount of battery here, and it supplied the whole town for power. So they didn't feel that lack of capacity that they had earlier on. So in Hawaii, they've set up a 13 megawatt solar, and in Hawaii, they can get the renewable from hydropower. And here we are, they've got about 55,000 panels. So they capture a lot of the energy, and they also use hydropower to sort of charge up the batteries. So here are the batteries that get charged up. Very clean business this is. Nothing messy like, a lot of people talk about hydrogen and this, that, or the other. I don't think that's going to really go very far. It's very messy. How can you sort of use hydrogen unless you use it like gas? And gas is very problematic. We've seen that, as far as having to shift it from one place to another. So, pipes and this, that, or the other. Electricity is the answer for the future. So really, solar and battery are the future. Now, a lot of governments will also have to start thinking in these terms. It's USA and China that are really at the forefront at the moment. But other countries will have to start utilizing, especially the poor countries in the tropical belt, where they've got plenty of sun. So if they're able to capture that and be able to deliver through electric lines, overhead lines and that sort of thing would be the best answer for giving power to all their, without having to invest too much in infrastructure. Now, China has got some goals here, and it says by 2025, solar and wind targets of 60.5% of it has got to be from those sources. USA, Biden has come in with a $2 trillion plan for infrastructure. Of the $2 trillion, $8 billion is going to go towards the power grid improvement. Now, Tesla has already put 30,000 of these chargers in USA, and I think government is going to extend that to a further 10. But it is really the gas pumps that are there that they can simply bring in power and provide the facility for electric vehicles. So they will come back with the infrastructure, which I think could be very useful for people to not think that you have to go far away to charge your car. In fact, even in Camden, we have a few of these charge points. And I heard, and I think I mentioned that last time, they are going to sink these power things below the pavement so that they give you a rod-like thing. You can plug in your thing there and it comes up and it charges and you can press it down so it's not visible. So Camden is also a bit way ahead in our opinion. Now, these are the big companies. There's so many of these companies. This is just so in passing. CATL, it provides about quarter of the world's battery power, half of China's. And in fact, it's a very big player in making batteries. Now, this is a little bit of history, basically saying Tesla bought this for 2.6 billion, but now it's worth a lot more. And of course, it's part of Tesla. And that's one of the reasons why Tesla's stock prices are really so far ahead of other nowadays. Okay, I'm going to stop there. So just over half an hour. And what we will do is go for a bit of Q&A. So what we have is, let me put it into this view here. We have gallery view, so I can see all of you. There we are. Okay, you can unmute yourself if you have a question and pose it so that we can see where we are on this SolarCity and energy. That is going to be soon coming into our homes, at least in the new built home, but even in the old built homes, we will be having solar panels coming in and delivering us. Yeah. Okay. Did I hear anybody say something? You have to unmute yourself.
I am unmuted.
Yeah.
How much promise is there and how much fulfillment when it comes to paying $13,500 to have a solar roof fitted, if I've got it right, and you're going to save something like $700 a year because your electricity is cheaper. So how long is it going to take to repay your investment?
I think in terms of, it depends on how big a setup that you're going for.
Yeah.
It can vary from about recovering within 5 years, between 5 and 10 years, your whole investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only somebody I know, her son-in-law has installed a heat pump. I know it's not solar energy, but it's it is again whatever is getting energy from the earth. And I'd love to know how much it costs and how much how much benefit it promised. Sorry about this. It's rather
No. In fact, that's a very good question, because you see here, the current technology of the heat pumps and so on is quite a sort of, if you like, intricate business.
Yeah.
Intricate in the sense you have to, first of all, drill a hole to quite deep, 200 feet or even more, where there is some little warmth there.
Yeah.
And what you do is that warmth, the water that you pump down to that level, then that warmth water comes up, but it's only 5 or 6 degrees more in terms of ambient water, if you like. So the heat is not too much, and then you have to further heat that water with the normal ways that you have, either electric or gas or whatever, to give you the full sort of temperature range. So this heat pump and all that are current low-tech technologies, but it's still, when you're making a house or something, because I know my daughter, when she was getting her house renovated, that was in Switzerland. They put the pipe down about 200 feet down, and they got a certain amount of warm water coming up, but it's not really very hot. And then they have to further heat it up and then use it. But there was some little saving, but that recovery of that investment was over a longer period, I think.
Yeah.
And a very messy solution also, if you ask me. Yeah.
But your daughter succeeded in the end. Is she now satisfied with the installation? Oh
yes. In fact, they have already sold the house, and it works very well. And but at the same time, it was the technology of that time, because these batteries haven't come in a very big way. And when they come in a big way, then we will be sort of, utilizing them a lot more. Thank you. Because they're so clean and so sort of efficient.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
In fact, I appreciate your whole talk.
I'm glad.
I expect we all do.
What I tell everybody is that we are living in our time, and I think if we are conversant with all the things that are happening, it makes us a bit more cheerful, rather than listening to the bad news every day.
Exactly.
I would like to say that I really appreciate it very much, because I don't know very much about the subject, and it's very important that we do. And thank you for clarifying it and all the research you've put into it. We all appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Macy. Thank you.
And here's a commercial. I know that you have many of your talks on YouTube. It's just finding the time and the mental alertness to actually watch them all and understand them all. But it's good to know that they are available.
Yes.
I mean, computers are wonderful.
Yes, I think it's a repository feature of the computers, and being online that makes it the added advantage. And it's a sort of like a little library that one can sort of browse through when one needs to and have the time.
Oh, you're quoting Jane Austen.
Oh, yeah, am I?
Yes. She wrote about her little ivory tablets that she made her little notes on. But, we've come a long way from that.
Right. Well, I am pleased that, you can find this archive or the link in Jilly's timetable that she sends out. Right at the bottom of that newsletter are the links for my talks and for Wally's sort of clips as well, and some music as well, I think. So if you go right down to the bottom of that newsletter, you'll find them.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you again.
Yeah.
It looks as though we finished.
Okay, yeah, more or less.
Nobody else raising a hand.
Who's that, Monique? Just, okay. Well, we have, I think, on the whole, a subject that we covered well, because I'm very excited about these possibilities, because we know where we stand on this technology. And this technology is being closely watched by Wall Street, of course. And when they keep on sort of looking at it, they're not terribly much into it. But I think they're nevertheless keeping one eye on it, because the automotive industry is on its last days. I think in the next one decade, I think they're going to be out of business. There won't be any, the usual cars that we see. There are going to be the electric vehicles in place and batteries supplying the power. And the oil companies are also going to go under. So both these lobbies, they're working very hard to try and delay this coming of the new age, as it were, of electricity and renewables. And of course, climate change. And it's so pressing, such a pressing issue that governments have given at least some support to the agreement of Paris. And this November, I think, or next November, I'm not sure when, or next year, there's going to be that climate COP meeting. And I hope that governments will commit to sort of buying and developing more, going the battery way, and be able to burn less fossil fuels. So that's our hope. And I hope if they do that in terms of the conference that's taking place, we will have achieved a lot, because here the technology is there. It's just a matter of giving the private sort of companies some little encouragement to go that way. If that is done, a lot of companies will go there and start bringing about the change that we so desperately need. Yeah. Okay, we see some new face here. Drusilla.
Yeah.
Welcome. No, I can't hear you because your audio is off. Okay.
I've been listening with interest to this. I have one sort of question. My brother has a farm in Cornwall, and they have a great big solar panel in the field near the house, and the electricity comes in, half of it goes to the house and half of it goes direct to the grid. So it's quite easy where you've got space.
Yes.
In your house. They don't have a battery system, but the electricity is shared between them and the grid. Yeah.
Well, it's good. I suppose the grid could be in a way a bit of like a battery, because they can store up or can provide the extra surplus to places that need it. So in a way, it's like acting a little battery of your own, because you can draw from the grid when you need it.
Yes,
but batteries are coming. Yeah, batteries are coming in a big way. And that's where all these mega factories are focusing their attention on. And lithium is one of these rare, not rare, but it's a metal that is found, especially in South America.
And there's going to be some in Cornwall with a bit of luck.
Yeah. I think the sooner that they're able to sort of extract this and be able to make it available, then so many more batteries can be made and therefore can come about for storage.
Well, that would be helpful, because my other half of my question was to be, I live in a basement flat in Hampstead, a conservation area. there's not much chance of me setting up anything to capture solar power personally, even if I had the money to do so. But it has to be supplied on a much more regional basis in a city-state.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we considered, I live in a block here, quite a large roof area there. And there was talk at one time about putting some of these solar cells there. But I think it's still early days for some of these old buildings. But the new ones that are coming in, that are being built, they are utilizing a lot of the advantages of good insulation, capturing the sun. Now, it is also important that you get the sun. I think one of the things that I showed in the figures was that they calculated the number of sun days that they had.
Yes.
Sunshine days, and I think quite a lot. So they were able to produce a lot of energy. But then there's also technology and development going ahead on increasing the efficiency of the solar cells themselves. There was at one time, I think, a figure of only about 10, 12, 15, 20, I think, conversion efficiency of sunlight to electricity. But I know that I read that an Israeli company had achieved something of the order of about 40% conversion efficiency. Now that could sort of make a huge difference. Even at the current efficiencies of up to 20, if you put these panels, like if you put these panels in Sahara, just a tenth of the Sahara will be sufficient to provide the energy for the whole world, through the current solar cell. But of course, it's a political sort of difficulty. People are not going to be able to rely on just that and say, okay, we'll get all our power from the Sahara.
That's a thought.
Yeah. So you can see that technology has the solutions. And what we require really is the political will and really an awareness. And that's why we are talking. If we are aware, then we can push for that type of candidate that comes into power, that talks about the future, about the greens and about the renewables and so on. So that type of life can come about a lot sooner than those lobbies that keep pushing, like the oil lobby and so on, because they are the ones that fund the campaigns and so on, USA especially. I don't know to what extent here, but the campaign funds come from these bad lobbies. One of them is the automotive and the other one is the oil lobby, which try to sort of hold back the new technologies, getting, if you like, making headway.
Yeah.
So I think the battle is being won. You see that the last meeting of Biden, it is very strange. This was last week. He invited all the automotive industries along with the unions to the White House for a meeting. And guess who he left out? Well, he left out Tesla.
Oh, God.
who is the biggest electric vehicle maker of batteries and cars in USA? Now, when asked the question, why have you not invited Tesla? The transport secretary had no answer. So here again, we are moving into a lobby type of slanted politics that is now trying to hold back Tesla and trying to sort of get the advantage and government money for their backward behavior of automotives that are there in like GM and Ford, rather than buying into the new thing. They're trying to sort of do it the other way, to curtail the advantage by asking for government money so that they can start work on EVs, electric vehicles, through their union power. And the unions have been paying Biden something like $3 million for his campaign. So you can see how it works. we don't call it bribe, but that's what it is. We call it support.
Yes,
But if it's a poor country, we call it a bribe. But if it's in USA and UK, we call it support. Nice use of language. Yeah.
Can I just say hello to Drusilla, whom I haven't seen for years? Hi, Drusilla.
Hello.
So you're looking so good. I'm so glad you are, I'm so glad to see you.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, I listen into some of these things nowadays.
Well, I'm glad that all of you are interested in these types of subjects, because I think it's heartening to know that people are keeping up with what's going on.
Doing our best.
Yeah.
But it's very hard. It's very hard.
Yeah.
There's so much information and you never know what to believe.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's there.
As Trump called it, fake news.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a time that my first thing I did in the morning was to put the radio on and listen to the news for an hour. And then I said, why am I doing it? It's all bad news. It makes me feel bad.
Yeah.
And therefore I stopped doing that.
Yeah.
And I just, on YouTube, I go to the columnists that I know have done their work and so on, and I listen to them. So in a way, this internet has given us a good choice as to who to listen to and who not to.
Absolutely. It has its advantages for sure.
Yeah. I find YouTube is a great source for me, especially if I know who is sort of putting those clips up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. It's knowing which people to go to, because you need to know who to avoid as well.
Yeah, if you have some favorite columnists, I know there are. If you read the Guardian, I suppose there are people that you can listen to who are very, very good. So 2 or 3 of them that I know write well and are clued in. I don't go to some of the sensational type of newspapers, because that they're doing that more to sort of sell their papers rather and giving you a little titillation, I suppose.
Yeah.
Correct.
But not if you're looking for information which is important. Yeah. Okay, with that, shall we say bye for the moment? And
Yes.
Well,
Thank you very, very much.
Yes. Until next time.
And next week,
Bye.
and next week is going to be an even much more dramatic type of talk, the last but one, and hopefully we'll see you there then. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Come on.